Hey, this is David Harris coming to you from the 2016 CSCCA conference here in Fort Worth, Texas, Strength Performance Network, and we have an opportunity to talk to Mike Joseph and Darrell Bauer from the University of West Virginia Strength and Conditioning Program. Guys, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thought we could start by just letting you tell our members a little bit about your backgrounds, how you got into strength and conditioning, what brought you to West Virginia ultimately, and how you guys started working together.
Okay. I started, obviously played football at Fairmont State College, Division II, and I became a GA under Al Johnson at West Virginia, late 90s, early 2000s, and became, from that point on, fell in love with strength and conditioning, fell in love with the aspect of training athletes, and kind of kept, obviously, wanting more, and trying to find new ways and better ways to train athletes. But then I went to Eastern Michigan and worked there for 2 years, Notre Dame for 6 years, and 2008 came back to West Virginia. And I'll let Darrell tell you a little bit more, but he came to work with me probably about 2009.
I grew up in Michigan. I played Division II football at Hillsdale College. I knew I wanted to be a strength coach since I was probably 16 years old, going to the Michigan football camps, and Mike Gittleson would train us during part of the camps, and that's the first time I realized, hey, this is actually a profession and people get paid to do this. So that was always my path, and I interned at Eastern Michigan in the summers a little bit, and Mike Sershin, who was there, who I was interning for, actually called Mike and recommended me right when Mike had gotten there, and Mike called me, I think, on a Wednesday or something and said, hey, I'd like to do a phone interview with you this weekend. I said, well, can I just drive down and meet you in person? And we talked for probably 30 minutes, and then he offered me a GA spot, and I've been there ever since. Since graduating, got my master's at West Virginia as a GA, and then been there ever since.
So I know you guys both focus on football, and earlier in your career, you actually worked with a lot of different sports.
Yeah, all the way through, I've always had football in terms of as one of my responsibilities, whether as a head job or an assistant. I've had wrestling, had baseball, basketballs, volleyball, tennis. I've pretty much dealt with every sport. And I think as a young coach, dealing with football, you learn a lot, but also you deal with all your multiple sports, Olympic sports. I think as a young coach dealing with sport coaches, trainers, administrators, you learn a lot, you develop a lot, and you kind of have to not so much lose some battles, but you learn to understand what's your principles, understand your foundation, and you understand the right way to train athletes, the right way to deal with male, female, different backgrounds, different demographics in terms of their weight room. But I think it shows if you have a true passion for training, it doesn't matter the athlete, it doesn't matter the sport, you just enjoy it. And obviously as my career became a head guy, obviously I spent almost all my time with football, but again, I still hire great assistants that help me with football, but also have a great staff, Olympics, that spend a lot of time with their sports respectively and do a great job.
So talk a little bit about your staff and kind of how it's organized in terms of
Again, I have 4 full-time assistants football, and Darrell Bauer is obviously my assistant director. Kevin McAdams, our assistant director for speed development. Chad Snodgrass, Alex Mitchell are both assistants for football. Then on the Olympic side, Andy Kettler is actually my associate director, does men's basketball. Brian Whiting, he does women's basketball, tennis, and he also helps with men's golf. Beth Byron, who's been with me for about the whole time I was there, 8 years. 9 years now. She's actually does gymnastics, swimming, diving. She does track and field. Then actually I had a couple new assistants this year. Chris Dunaway, he does a great job. He's been a long time strength coach in the MLB. He takes care of baseball and helps with the track aspect. And then Josh Feldkamp is a new assistant I just hired also. He does women's soccer. And the last assistant would be Tanner Kolb, does wrestling and men's soccer.
Big staff.
Good staff, great staff, very, very experienced.
So does everyone work out in the same weight room? Do you have a couple different facilities?
Right now we have we have actually 4 facilities, 2 newer ones. The football weight room was renovated about 3 years ago. One of the best, I think, weight rooms in the country. Is about just slightly under 20,000 square foot. Basketball has a basketball practice facility that has probably about 8,000 square foot weight room. And we have 2 older facilities that's in our Shell and Coliseum that this year we're going to build a new Olympic weight room. It's about just under 10,000 square foot. It's going to be one of the better facilities, hopefully add as much newer technology equipment in as possible, but it'd be a great recruiting tool, but also for our student athletes to maximize their abilities.
And now when it comes to your actual football program, I know when we were talking earlier you mentioned something that you do around neck exercise or functionality there. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So probably 5 or 6 years ago, we really started. We've always emphasized neck training, but through Pendulum, they have a 5-way neck machine, and we're just kind of going through the different modes of training, and across the country, it's not something it's kind of an afterthought a lot of times. Neck training is, and it wasn't until the last few years that the concussions and the NFL concussion crisis has brought such huge attention to the mental health of the athlete, and so the NFL's made a lot of rule changes in trying to protecting quarterbacks, targeting, changing kickoffs, and then changing the technology, the helmet, and all that stuff. Well, no research has shown that any new helmets have actually reduced the risk of concussions and subconcussive trauma. So one thing that we're trying to do is protect the athlete from the inside out. So we do that by trying to increase the cylinder, which is, obviously your neck is a cylinder, trying to increase the surface area of that. And then the other two areas are your traps and then your scaps. So if you think about it like a vehicle, like I say, a truck, for instance, the whole vehicle is designed to protect the driver, which is your brain, right? So the first thing that gets hit when you get hit in the head is, your skull, your bone of your skull. That's like the body of the vehicle, okay? And then the airbags, that's like your neck. So the greater neck surface area you have, the more surface area there is to absorb that impact. And then your traps act kind of as like the shock absorbers, a suspension of the vehicle, all right, to try to absorb the impact. Again, the more meat that's there, the more area there is to absorb impact, and take the load off of the concussive impact. And then your scaps, if they're strong, then the entire vehicle can be strong from the top down. So we've had good results in protecting our athletes, and the kids are bought into it. They love training their necks. We measure their necks once a month and try to motivate them that way. So
it's one thing I think we've, since I've been there, initiative to have neck training and injury prevention. I think over the last 10 years, the injury rates have dramatically decreased, and obviously our performance on the field continues to improve, and also our success of a lot of our athletes leaving the program. But I think the one thing we expect a lot of our athletes train very hard, which they do. They buy into the program, what Coach Darrell was talking about. And since Darrell's been there, he's taking a great lead on in terms of taking that and part of the program and him running it. And I think our guys, relatively for the most part, understand the very high importance of it, but they enjoy doing it, and they understand the importance when it comes to a game. Again, we spend a lot of effort on getting them strong, fast, agile, and all the things, but the injury prevention in terms of neck concussion, trauma, and cylinder size is very, very important.
What do you do when you get your freshmen to come in to also make sure that they're actually the foundation's there for them to continue to build on, prevent the injuries, but also maximize the gains that they're going to make?
I think the biggest thing in terms of us as a staff, I think number one thing is all athletes come from different backgrounds. They might come from great coaches, bad coaches, no history of training. The number one thing is whether it be neck training, speed training, squatting, deadlifting, whatever we're going to do, we're going to teach the basics and see how they perform. Some guys respond well, some guys take a little longer. And number one thing I think we talk about as staff is rep integrity. Teach them how to work, teach them how to train, teach them how to take care of their bodies, and hopefully at a young age they learn that. Some guys take a little longer because of immaturity or whatever other things happen, but if they learn how to train, whether it be neck, whether it be speed drills or doing squats, they know how to do it the right way with a good intensity, right range of motion, rep integrity, they're going to be successful.
Are you finding now that strength and conditioning is really taking hold more at the high school level in terms of having formal strength coaches versus a football coach that might also do strength and conditioning, for example, that you're getting freshmen who are a little bit more skilled from a foundation standpoint, or have you not noticed much of a change?
Some areas, like there's some guys that come from certain states, certain areas, you can tell they have a great high school program, and they're like having small colleges. There's some places we get recruits that have never been in a weight room, or the weight room is the size of a bedroom because they just never train. So for the most part, I'd say it's similar. I think kids maybe have more experience with maybe personal trainers at local gyms or fitness facilities or training facilities, more so than they ever had in the past. So some are kind of opened up to that in some good ways and bad ways. But I think in general, it's still a development. It's the number one thing we want, that's as a talk as a conference, is trying to make sure all levels of the 1, 2, or 3 in terms of NCAA is covered by a strength coach, but also now it needs to start trickling down to high school and junior highs. Because if you get that kids at a young point trained the right way, motor patterns safely, they're going to have higher potential in the end result.
We were talking to some coaches earlier. There's the Georgia Tech, for example, they have an actual freshman-specific program when athletes come in. You guys have anything like that where you kind of put freshmen on a starter track?
Everybody comes in at a starting point, and obviously we have them by position, offense, defense. You have skill, you have linemen, you have guys that are basically almost 3 levels. Entry level guys that are a little bit ahead of that curve, and they're all individualized by their own personal in terms of workout, weights, and all that. But depending on their level, maturity level, their experience, their technique, all that will depend on how far they move or how fast they move in terms of progression. But we have a probably beginner level, intermediate. We have a couple levels of advanced, meaning guys are strong but maybe not to peak. And then we have guys that have been in the program 4 or 5 years. Their training age is very, very high. So then we have to work in some other methodologies to kind of adjust and accommodate for that.
Great. Cool. Thanks, guys. I appreciate your time. Appreciate it. This is David Harris again from the 2016 CSCCA conference. Talking to the strength staff here from the University of West Virginia, Darrell Bower and Mike Joseph. Thank you, guys.